and those who say, no, I'm against the naturalization of illegals in this way, especially doing it through executive order. That is a violation of the Constitution.
It's also a violation of what the president has said himself on multiple occasions.
So you have a responsibility. The president says you cannot defend this action. He can't legally do it. So he's saying he can't do it. You have a responsibility. Unless you want to just throw the Constitution out, you have to stand against that. Now, does the president's cronies, his friends, his allies, the people in La Raza, otherwise known as the race, do you think that they protest? Do you think if somebody starts to stand up, they're going to take to the streets? If you have the action on the streets from Ferguson and it is spreading, why would the president throw another log on the fire the same week? Why? Why, Mr. President? Please, just explain this to the American people. Why does this have to happen now? Why would you choose to do this now? I want to believe the best in you. I want to believe that, you know, we don't want to tear the republic apart. Domestic tranquility. This is not the time to come out with an executive order, one that you said you couldn't defend. Why would you do it on the same week of Ferguson?
That is a very, very good question. Why would the President of the United States seemingly have to, you would think that this is a must. He absolutely has to announce this big sweeping change in our immigration system. The very same week, there is an extremely high-profile grand jury verdict about to be read with serious racial overtones. Why would he do that?
Well, if he loved America, he wouldn't do it. If he had any intentions whatsoever of actually being the president, the chief executive of the United States of America, he wouldn't do it.
Well, Glenn Beck brought up, and so did you, the two words, domestic tranquility. You know, where does that come from? It comes from the preamble to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. That very document that the president swore to uphold. He swore to uphold that document that says, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union,
establish justice,
ensure domestic tranquility.
You know, if the president intended to uphold the Constitution, he wouldn't do this. He wouldn't take this action.
Unless he was counting on the actions of unscrupulous people. He wouldn't do this unless he was counting on some serious repercussions happening. Now, I realize that makes me sound like some sort of conspiracy theorist, but I've always been told if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's got to be a duck.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. When the president took his oath of office, doesn't that oath end in the words, "So help me God"?
It does. It does.
So he took an oath before God. So I'm going to just tell you right now, Mr. President, you do that, and then you break that oath, there are repercussions that don't come from man.
That's right.
You know, whatever happens, don't try to blame your fellow man for it.
Well, he's never been one to claim responsibility for anything, for any scandal or any mistake that has happened on his watch, he has never once, in the over 6 years that he's been around, he's never taken responsibility for anything. The only things that he's taken responsibility for is the healthcare mandate and the killing of Osama bin Laden, which he didn't do.
I have to correct you on one thing. That whole Obamacare thing?
Yeah.
Well, see, there's a lot of it that he's really not wanting to take any responsibility for.
Well, now we're going to get to that before this show is over with.
Yeah.
I have audio for that, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to taking responsibility, even, and see, in the whole lead up to killing Osama bin Laden, he made sure that he had an out there if things didn't go well.
Yep.
That he would be able to deny even that. So let's see. Well, let's just enumerate a few things for which Obama is absolutely not responsible. Not me, Jack. Let's go back a ways. I know it's unfashionable and really politically incorrect to talk about stuff he did in his first term because that's all old.
Right.
But let's see. There's Fast and Furious.
The gun running debacle that ended in the loss of life of one of our border agents, Brian Terry.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing to do with that.
No.
Not him. Not his administration. That was somebody that sort of looked like him that ducked and dodged on that one. Let's see. Not a smidgen of corruption in the IRS, so he had nothing to do with that.
No.
Benghazi, Libya, he was
Never
already
happened.
in bed.
Yeah, never happened.
Yeah, it wasn't even a big deal. That's old stuff.
And even if it was on his watch, that's Hillary Clinton's fault.
Yeah, and it was a long time ago anyway.
Right. Can't believe anybody's still talking about that.
Really. Like Ben Franklin was still around, when that happened. Gosh.
The spying on reporters.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with that.
Or the NSA spying on everybody and getting caught doing it.
No, he didn't have nothing to do with that. Let's see here. The fact that his health care law doesn't really work the way he said it would, as in, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Well, we all misunderstood what he was saying.
That was a huge misunderstanding on our part.
On our part, yeah.
Right. We'll hear about that a little bit later.
Yeah. Let's see. The fact that in his first 2 years in office, when he had a supermajority in Congress of his own party,
and could do anything he wanted,
he didn't bother to do anything about immigration then.
And, it's been asked. I heard today, I was watching Fox News early this morning, and Martha McCallum had Josh Earnest on, and she asked him about that very thing. Why, when you had a supermajority in both houses and could have done anything you wanted, why didn't the president, if this is so important and so out of whack, why didn't he do something about it then? And Josh Earnest said that, he had a lot on his plate at that time. We were in like one of the worst recessions in our nation's history, and it was all Bush's fault that we were in this trouble. He had to save the automobile industry. He had to bail out Wall Street. There was a lot, and he had the health care overhaul that he had to do.
Okay, well, see, again, I hate to keep harping back on that subject, but he can't say that he was busy reading that law, because I know it is thick. Because like even Nancy Pelosi said, the bill had to be passed before anybody could find out exactly what was in it. So it's not like he was actually reading that.
Right.
So, and as far as bailing out the auto industry, they're not really bailed out.
No.
And as far as bailing out Wall Street, that was a bigger priority than, say, taking care of our veterans? Because, it's not like the VA system all of a sudden got broke.
Yeah, see, that's another problem that he had absolutely nothing to do with.
I mean, he had a supermajority in Congress. Something could have been done about the VA system back then. This whole border thing. I'm sorry, man.
Hundreds of thousands of people that flooded our border this summer.
Well, see, he was I'll tell you what he was up to during those 2 years. He was busy laying all the groundwork for what's happening now on the border, because it just kills me, man. They say everybody knows our immigration system is broken. What? No, I'm holding up my hand here in this big auditorium.
No,
everybody doesn't know our immigration system is broken. What we do know is that the enforcement system along our border is broken and has been broken ever since Barack Obama came into office.
And broke it.
I
mean, they were doing their job right up until the very moment that President Obama and his Department of Justice more or less handcuffed the enforcement wing of our immigration system and said, you cannot do your job.
Even down to saying, no, look, you let these guns go across that border.
Yeah.
So,
and, it's not like he's not aware of what can happen. Look, I got a clip here from Senator Tom Coburn. He was having a little sit-down with USA Today, and this is about a minute long. But this is what he sees on the horizon.
Palmer, thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be with you.
President Obama on Friday is expected to announce the executive order on immigration. What will the Republican reaction be here?
Oh, I don't think it's so much the Republican reaction here. The country's going to go nuts because they're going to see it as a move outside of the authority of the president. And it's going to be a very dangerous situation. You're going to see, hopefully not, but you could see instances of anarchy.
What do you mean?
Well, you could see violence. This is a big step to not work with Congress, now that he's got a new Congress, to go completely around it and to do things that a lot of legal debate on both sides of whether or not he has the power to do that. But what our country needs now is to be pulled together, not divided further.
Now, that legal authority that the president is going to claim, I did some looking into that, mainly because I've got a lot of left-wing lunatics on my Facebook page, and they're all screaming the same thing, that Ronald Reagan did it and George H.W. Bush did it. After seeing that a 1,000 times, I said, okay, let me go back and look, and let's see exactly what happened. It is true that those two presidents did take some pretty drastic actions in granting a form of amnesty to people who were here illegally. That part is true. But there's a very, very important thing that both of those presidents had in common that this president doesn't have.
And what would that be?
Congress.
Yeah, see, I thought we would get around to that. Yeah, he actually went to Congress and got
both of the Ronald Reagan, he had the House and the Senate saying, you know what, we need to put this into law. George H.W. Bush had a Congress and a Senate that said, hey, we need to put this into law. Now, right now, we have a Senate with a Democrat majority that has sat on 300 pieces of legislation that the House of Representatives has sent to them with no action. But they've got this one thing. They've got this sweeping overhaul of the immigration system that the Senate